Capitalism and its crisis. Introduction. In the present times, most of the countries in the world, by and large, are working under capitalist economic relations with variation in economic development. According to Marx, a human society passes through 5 socio-economic formations, that is, primitive communism, slavery, feudalism, capitalism, and communism. In his views, just like pre-capitalist formations, capitalism emerges, exists, and withers away due to its own contradictions. Meaning of capitalism. Marx regarded capitalism a progressive formation in its initial stage than the pre-capitalist socio-economic formations. The main features of capitalism can be listed as the existence of private property, availability of wage labor in large number, major production of commodities in place of goods, large-scale production, division of society into 2 classes, that is, one who owns means of production called capitalists and others who do not own means of production and earn their livelihood by selling their labor power in the market are called proletarians. The number of people who owns means of production is very small, while the number of others is very large. Another important feature of capitalist system that it not only creates economic disparities between groups of people but also creates regional disparities. For example, at the world level, a few countries are very rich and others are very poor, which are known as third world countries. Capitalist mode of production also creates islands of development surrounded by vast underdeveloped areas. For example, in India, Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, etc. are some of the highly developed centers, while other areas around them are underdeveloped. So, capitalist system may be described as the mode of production under which the means of production are the private property of individuals, the production forces are highly developed, and the product is produced with the help of hired labor to sell it in the market to earn profit. To analyze the capitalist system, a brief look at some of its important features become desirable. Labor is the man's purposeful activity for the creation of a particular article or service. Further, this labor is divided into 2 types, that is, concrete labor and abstract labor. Labor power spent with a definite aim is called concrete labor. For example, labor power used by carpenter, mason, etc. Different kinds of concrete labor are not comparable because value created by the different types of labor is not comparable. But one thing is common among different types of concrete labor is that they all are expenditure of human energy, that is, the energy of muscles, brain and nerves, etc. of a man. The expenditure of human labor in any concrete labor process is known as abstract labor. It is the abstract labor embodied in different commodities on the basis of which different commodities are exchanged. Commodity. A good that satisfies human want is called a commodity. A good to become a commodity must have use value as well as exchange value. The use value is again differentiated by 2 elements. An article or thing becomes a commodity only when it is sold by producer to another person. But if a producer gives a thing to another person without getting any money or thing, it's not commodity. For example, a thing given by one person to another as a gift cannot be called a commodity. Surplus value. Adam Smith as well as Ricardo explained that it is only the human labor that creates value. It is called labor theory of value. Marx adopted this notion in his analysis of the laws of motion of capitalism. When commodities are produced by independent individual producers under the social division of labor, they exchange their labor contained in commodities by the process of selling and buying the commodities. Marx described that value of a commodity depends on the labor embodied in the commodity. Each producer's labor is tied up with the labor of all other producers under the social division of labor. This social division of labor makes the individual producer's labor as social labor, while the private ownership of means of production makes it private. The social character of labor and its appropriation by the private capitalist who has private ownership in the means of production is the basic contradiction under capitalism. Under capitalism, a laborer sells his labor power, not himself. Labor power is the capacity to work or produce goods. Just like other commodities, labor power also becomes commodity which a laborer is compelled to sell it to the capitalist for earning wage money for his survival. The value of wage labor power is determined by the necessary labor time to produce the means of subsistence for the laborer and his family, besides the social and cultural needs of the laborer. According to Marx, it is only labor power that produces more than it consumes. Other factors like machinery or raw materials just contribute to the output equal to their depreciation. That is, they do not produce surplus value and remain constant. That is why they are represented by C. Thus, the surplus value is produced only by labor. Suppose a worker in 1 hour produces a product worth ₹15 and works in a factory for 10 hours in a day. By doing so, the total value of his product will be of worth ₹150. If the wage paid to the worker is ₹90, that he had earned by working for 6 hours only, and the remaining 4 hours labor, that is ₹60, is appropriated by the capitalist. 6 hours labor time is called the necessary labor time, and the remaining time of 4 hours is called surplus labor time, during which the product produced by the labor is appropriated by the capitalist. Capitalist mode of production. One socio-economic formation is differentiated from the other on the basis of specific mode of production of a particular socio-economic formation. Mode of production consists of forces of production and relations of production. Forces of production further consist of labor, instruments of labor, and objects of labor. Relations of production include views and institutions prevailing in a society. With the passage of time, the experience of labor increases. Due to this experience, his dexterity and skill increase. Because of this, he improves the instruments of production, that is, new techniques are introduced in the production process. So, the forces of production continue to grow and proper development of society takes place only if relations of production also change accordingly. But often, relations of production between people do not conform to the forces of production, and consequently, overall development in the society doesn't take place. As has been shown in figure number 1, the components of value. From the above discussion, it's clear that Marx divides the value of any commodity into 3 parts, that is C plus B plus S is equal to W. The first part, that only represents the value of materials and machinery used up, does not undergo any quantitative change in the process of production, and so it is called constant capital indicated by letter C. As noted earlier, the second part, which represents the value of labor power, changes in value, and it represents both the value of labor power equivalent of its own value and also produces an excess or surplus value, which may itself change according to the circumstances and is designated by V. The third component is the surplus value itself, which is denoted by letter S. Besides, W in the formula represents the value of the total product. Thus, the surplus value is only created by labor, increasing the magnitude of surplus value. A capitalist can increase the amount of surplus value mainly by adopting the following 3 methods. First, by prolonging the working day, which implies workers are to be engaged in work for more hours than before. Second, by reducing the minimum necessary labor time, that is, by reducing the number of hours during which the value is created equal to the wage paid to the worker. And thirdly, by speeding up of labor, that is, by increasing the productivity of labor. This needs improvement in the techniques used for production. Actually, to increase the magnitude of surplus value by lengthening the working day has limited possibilities because of the capacity to work of a laborer is limited. The second method needs the requirement of more constant capital relative to the more employment of variable capital. Third method implies the intensification in the process of the more exploitation of labor, which is possible only by increasing the use of modern sophisticated technology with the given labor during a specific time. To understand these methods, it becomes important to know about the organic composition of capital. As stated earlier, Marx divides total production into 3 components, that is C plus B plus S is equal to W. The rate of surplus value can be defined as surplus value is equal to total surplus divided by variable capital. Karl Marx describes the rate of surplus value as the rate of exploitation, that is, the proportion between surplus labor and minimum necessary labor time. or net output is equal to variable capital plus surplus value, the organic composition of capital. The second ratio that can be derived from the formula is the measurement of the relation of constant capital to the total capital. It can be denoted by the letter Q. That is, Q is equal to C over C plus V, or we can write it C over V. This shows that the organic composition of capital is a measure of the extent to which labor is furnished with materials, instruments, and machinery during the process of production. The rate of profit. The ratio of surplus value to total capital expenditure is very important to the capitalist and can be written as profit rate is equal to S over C plus V. By dividing the right hand side by V, we get rate of surplus value divided by 1 minus organic composition of capital. So even if the rate of surplus value or exploitation remains constant, the rate of profit would fall because C over V, that is the organic composition of capital, increases. Crisis of capitalism. The factors that help in the growth of capitalism after some time, the same factors mainly create crisis in capitalist development. According to Marx, capitalism, along with its growth process, continue to develop the conditions that put the system into crisis. The necessity of a capitalist in a society to grow requires the capitalist to increase production on the basis of accumulation of capital through the concentration and centralization. The growth of capitalism during the expansion of output and intensification of the exploitation of hired labor need better means of production, that is machinery, etc., which are introduced in the large enterprises. With this, the means of individual labor become the means of social production, and the degree of socialization of labor increases. The links of big and specialized enterprises mutually grow, and the different sectors of the economy become dependent. Then production becomes a social process. The character of the product of labor becomes social, but its appropriation remains private. These relations of production become a hurdle in the economic development of society. For the further development of society, it becomes necessary that along with the specialization of character of labor, its appropriation should also become social. That is, ownership of the means of production should also be social instead of private. The contradiction between social character of production of labor and its private appropriation manifests in two ways. First, the contradiction between the production planned at the firm level but unplanned, that is anarchic, at the social level. Secondly, the contradiction between the capitalist class and the proletariat